It's a freezing night in Northern California, February 24th, 1978. A white Mercury Montego snakes down a lonely mountain road in the Plumas National Forest. Snow drifts along the edges of the asphalt. The trees loom tall, black silhouettes against the pale moonlight. Inside the car are 5 young men, laughing, arguing, tearing open candy bars. The heater hums. They're talking about the college basketball game they just watched in Chico. The Gateway Gators, their own team, has a big tournament the next day. Life feels simple, good, safe. None of them know they're minutes away from vanishing into one of the strangest and most chilling mysteries in American history. Their disappearance will baffle police, torment their families, and leave behind a story so eerie that even after 40 years, no one can truly explain it. This is the story of the Yuba County Five. 5 friends from Yuba City, California. Ted Wire, 32, gentle, kind-hearted, a little slow mentally, but warm and dependable. Jack Madruga, 30, an Army veteran, quiet and protective. Bill Sterling, 29, deeply religious, compassionate, almost too trusting. Jack Hewitt, 24, the youngest, cheerful, always cracking jokes. And Gary Mathias, another Army vet, bright and energetic, but diagnosed with schizophrenia. He was doing well though, stable, medicated, focused on basketball. They weren't troublemakers. They were the kind of guys who'd stop to help you change a tire or carry your groceries inside. Everyone in Yuba City knew them as the boys. Their lives revolved around basketball. They even had their own team, the Gateway Gators. That night, they drove nearly 50 miles north to Chico to watch a college basketball game. They cheered, bought snacks, and left the arena around 10 p.m. Excited, laughing, talking about how they'd crush their opponents in their own tournament the next day. But they never made it home. 2 days later, a forest ranger spotted a car parked strangely on a remote logging road deep in the Sierra Nevada mountains, 70 miles from Chico. It was Jack Madruga's white Mercury Montego. Inside, police found candy wrappers and milk cartons, folded maps, the keys still in the ignition. No signs of a struggle. The car wasn't stuck. It hadn't run out of gas. It started perfectly when they tested it. So why was it abandoned in the middle of nowhere? And why were they up there at all? That road led to nothing but snow-covered wilderness, miles from the route home. None of them were dressed for the cold. No jackets, no flashlights, no plan. It was as if they'd stopped, stepped into the woods, and simply vanished. Police, volunteers, helicopters, bloodhounds, everyone searched. Night after night, the temperatures dropped below freezing. Still, there were no footprints, no tire tracks beyond the car, nothing. Ted's mother told reporters he wouldn't leave his friends, he'd die with them before he left them. Weeks passed. The snow kept falling. The mountains stayed silent. And then, months later, when the snow began to melt, the nightmare truly began. June 1978. A group of motorcyclists were riding through the melting forest trails when they stumbled across an old Forest Service trailer, a shelter used for snowed-in workers. Inside, they found horror. On the bed lay the body of Ted Wire. He was emaciated, thin as bone, wrapped carefully in 8 sheets. His beard was long, his feet frostbitten. He'd lost almost 80 pounds. Beside him were his wallet, his ring, his watch, and partially eaten canned food. Investigators realized Ted had survived for nearly 3 months after they disappeared. But here's the strangest part. Inside the trailer were dozens of sealed food rations, propane tanks, matches, fuel, enough to last all winter. None of it had been touched. They died surrounded by everything they needed to survive. Not long after, searchers found 3 more bodies along an 11-mile path between the car and the trailer. Jack Madruga and Bill Sterling were side by side, frozen in the snow. A little further on, they found Jack Hewitt. Only bones remained, scattered by animals. But Gary Mathias, the 5th man, was never found. Only his tennis shoes were discovered inside the trailer. It looked like Gary had borrowed Ted's shoes before leaving, maybe to go for help. That was the last trace of him. This is where tragedy turns into something darker. Why drive 70 miles up a mountain at night in the opposite direction of home with no supplies, no jackets, and no reason to be there? Why leave a car that wasn't stuck? Why walk into the wilderness in freezing cold? And if they found shelter, food, and fuel, why starve to death? What were they running from? That same night, a man named Joseph Shones was driving through the Plumas Mountains, and his car got stuck in the snow. While trying to stay warm inside, he said he saw a group of people, 5 men and a woman carrying a baby, walking in the glow of headlights from another vehicle parked nearby. He shouted for help. No one answered. A few hours later, as he drifted in and out of consciousness, he saw flashlight beams dancing outside his window. When he finally freed his car the next morning, he drove past the spot where the Yuba 5's car would later be found. He swore that the voices and lights he saw belonged to them. But the woman, the baby, no one has ever identified them. Over the years, the theories piled up. Maybe they took a wrong turn, but they'd been near that area before, and they weren't city kids. Maybe someone was following them. That would explain why they fled uphill instead of turning back towards safety. But there were no other footprints, no tire tracks, nothing. Some pointed at Gary Mathias, his schizophrenia, his medication found at home. Maybe he had an episode and convinced the others to follow him. But Gary was known to be high-functioning and loyal to his friends. If he'd led them into danger, why was he the only one never found? Others whispered about the government, nearby military sites, reports of strange explosions that night. Could they have seen something they weren't supposed to? There's no proof, but the lack of answers only makes the silence heavier. Investigators later realized Ted Wire had survived alone for weeks inside that trailer. The food cans had been opened with a military-style can opener, the kind Gary Mathias would have known how to use from his army days. That suggests Gary had been there too, helping Ted, feeding him, maybe trying to get help. The sheets wrapped carefully around Ted's body suggested someone else was present when he died. But where that person went, no one knows. No footprints, no tracks, just snow. Like he stepped into the storm and vanished. The families never truly healed. Ted's mother still set his plate at dinner for years after. Gary's parents kept hoping he'd just walk through the door one day. Jack's sister said she believed they were chased to their deaths. Locals still talk about it, how the forest feels strange near where the car was found. Too quiet, too still. Some hikers claim they hear voices, faint, distant, calling names. One man said he found a small basketball charm buried in the dirt near the road. He left it there. The case became known as America's Dyatlov Pass. Just like the Russian hikers who died mysteriously in the Ural Mountains, the Yuba-5 were found dead in impossible circumstances, surrounded by supplies that could have saved them. But these weren't mountaineers. They weren't thrill seekers. They were just 5 ordinary guys coming home from a basketball game. Even decades later, detectives, journalists, and internet sleuths still debate what happened that night. Was it panic? Was it fear? Or did someone lure them up that mountain? And what about the missing trailer keys? Drive through the Plumas National Forest today, late at night, and you'll find the spot where the Mercury Montego once sat, half buried in snow. The air there feels heavy. The silence feels wrong. No one talks above a whisper. And maybe that's for the best, because some stories don't want to be solved. They just stay.